Our guests are still here. Dominic Wabala, security expert and journalist, and Daniel Nanok, the MP for Turkana West. We're talking about deployment of extra security personnel, including the KDF, to the strife-torn north of the country. We've seen these kind of operations before, without the military, some with the military, in these particular regions, where the outcry from the community is police came and they were just knocking and banging our doors down and entering the house and beating up everybody and saying, Toa bunduki. And you're beaten until bunduki toke. In some cases, yes, they'll find the bunduki. In other cases, they'll not find the bunduki. But the thing is, after they've gone, the aftermath of that operation is people just complaining that, wow, this was completely inhumane. Now, how do you balance between dealing with the kind of people that you know are killers, because we have seen they are killers. Just the other day, this week, they have killed police officers, armed police officers, killed them. How do you balance between that and balance also with the issue of maintaining law and order versus maintaining people's dignity and human rights? This is the conversation we want to continue with this hour, and we'll open up the phone lines as well for you to join the conversation and contribute. 0719 0719 012 600. Okay. Thank you, Ndu. Thank you, my sister. No, Siti,
yes, please.
Remind us the proverb.
It's still from that country of Zambia.
Okay.
He who paddles two canoes sinks.
He who paddles two canoes
Sinks.
Which are these two canoes?
Well,
because how possible is it to paddle two canoes?
You've gotten the heart of the matter. That's precisely the point.
That's why you'll sink.
That's why you will sink.
It doesn't happen, and so there's no one to sink.
Well, yes, there are those individuals who think they can, and when they think they can, the outcome is one we're referring to.
It's like the hyena, the forked road. How can you really be on two roads at the same time? It's impossible. But that's it. That's a point.
Yeah.
So we continue this conversation, and gentlemen and lady, the issue is about the operation and whether the operation is going to bear fruit, and the best way then to make sure that we restore order in these counties. From experience, from what you've seen before, Dominic, look at this one. Look at what happened in Mount Elgon. Mount Elgon, there was a whole issue of, Matakwe and the SLDF and how they were handled and how they were dealt with. Military was there, but working under the police.
No, I think the best thing would be to involve the community. It is only when you involve the community that you can successfully do an operation, or you can successfully purport to have solved a situation. One thing we need to do as a country is to understand that the people most afflicted are the ones. They are the ones who are concerned. They are the only ones who have the interest of that issue.
The real victims.
The real victims. So these should be involved. Like Mheshimiwa has just mentioned, NPR. NPR are the locals. Train, arm them. They are the ones who will give that intelligence. If there is a movement of animals or raiders, so they are the only people who can say this is what is happening. I mean, you don't expect to pick up Dominic, who's grown up in Nairobi, and take him to Suguta Marmar and expect that he's going to survive. It is not possible. Dominic can't walk 20 kilometers. It is only the locals.
20 kilometers.
Yes.
And where is the role of technology in fighting banditry? This country is way up there in terms of the use of IT. Yeah, we have the drones. Yeah, instead of subjecting our officers to following bandits who are armed and can ambush them and waylay them and kill them, maybe we would rather use a drone to surveillance the area, to follow where these raiders are getting into or where they are hiding, and find another way, a different way of dealing with it. I'm bringing here the question of use of technology in dealing with this banditry problem. The operation must succeed, Latif. It should succeed. I don't like us saying whether it will succeed, because the whether it will succeed is what will kill the hope of the people of the North. That it will be just like all those others.
But what will success look like in your opinion?
Silencing the guns, the mobility of the people and their livelihood activities going on, and being sure that tomorrow is going to be there, unless, sickness and stuff like that. For me, if this operation will succeed, the highway between Kainuk and, say, Lodwar, Kitale, or Lodwar Kainuk for that matter, will be safe to drive through. You don't have to be escorted. Yeah? Because then that will open our county for business. People will be free to move. The road between Lokichar and Kapedo should be motorable, good enough for anybody who is doing their economic activity to continue. Yeah? And that we will not be treating gun wounds in our hospitals. We will not be burying our people. That is the situation I see. Okay? But I know you look very skeptical of what I'm saying. But that is the picture you've asked me to paint. That is what I hope I can get.
It isn't skepticism. Okay? What you're seeing is me pondering on the issue and looking at the complexity of it.
Yeah.
Because we are talking about this issue as though it was invented by this current government. And in this country, it is historical.
Yeah.
Every government we've had, from the colonialists to the first African government, has played a part in what we are now discussing.
Can I chip in?
Please.
I have hope in this government. From day one, the president has consistently talked of what we've been missing for a long, long time. Goodwill, political goodwill. The desire to end this, and backed it up by the actions. Okay? They may have delayed. It may be seen to be done haphazardly or, I don't know, not in a very nice way, but there is the intent to see this thing come to an end. It's the how. Yeah? It's the how. And that should be a challenge to our security officers. That this time round, can they make the president's goodwill work?
Mheshimiwa, I'm going to say two things. Huh? One, the region we speak of, that northern part, northern, western, eastern
North Rift
of the country, okay? It actually goes beyond North Rift because it covers even the northern part of Kenya.
Yes, true.
There may be unique triggers that brought about some of these situations of insecurity that we talk about, but it boils down to, in my mind, one thing, and I'm going to juxtapose it to what we asked about Nairobi. I know of a Nairobi when walls were just knee-high, to the point where now you can't see buildings because they are walls. Okay? Now, this is my thought. The real security is not in big guns, security organizations, more police, more this. No. Security is when people feel, one, they belong, they also feel that their interests are taken care of. It's people who provide security, not guns, it's people. That's my thought. Now, why do I say this? Every time we've had these operations, whether it is in northern Kenya, North Rift, the length of time I've lived on this planet in this country, what I have seen is that the people in those regions where these operations have taken place are more disenfranchised and they're more distant from the government than they were before. So I have to ask the question, what really is achieved? And that resultant issue that I'm referring to is what is the ecosystem and the breeding ground for the continuity of this banditry, which has now morphed into this large-scale enterprise.
And so I agree with you, Muga. Those deployed should now do it differently. There should be a building of bridges between these forces and the community, so that the community can willingly give them whatever information is required to nip this thing in the bud. The strategy must change. And I hope that the officers deployed will have that mindset. That
Have we trained them differently?
well, it's not even about training, really, because Muga,
Yes.
I have confidence in the security officers of this country to do a good job if they mean to. Look at what has happened to the attacks we were having, the terror attacks in this country, when we started in 2013 and where we are now. Look at what has happened with Somalia, say even Jubaland or this section where the KDF were deployed. And the way the problems there have gone down, they cannot completely be eradicated, because these are human enterprise. You know, these are people involved. So I want to believe that if our forces mean to execute this, and the observation you just made, until we know, what Natembeya said was very telling, that those he sat with to plan the operation to get rid of the bandits in Laikipia were the ones who are involved. That statement. So if our officers, if we are in a able, and our intelligence, I believe, can do that, they should be able to
do it very well. They do it very well. Very, very. Mheshimiwa,
at least it will reduce.
Mheshimiwa,
I hope it will.
The reason why what you're calling terror attacks and all this, do you know why we have special units? There are many. I don't even know all of them. I think I only know 3.
Deploy them.
These people are trained specifically to deal with this problem. Now, you don't know they're dealing with it, but part of the time, what they prevent from happening is greater than what you hear.
Correct.
Because they are trained, they know what they are doing. They're our unsung heroes. Now, you cannot tell me that this problem, they're dealing with a live animal, a rather huge one at that, and in large numbers moving, and you can see, and you're telling me that we have been unable to get the special unit that was created for this purpose to do what these other units are doing in a far more sophisticated criminal environment. Surely.
A more realistic look, Muga. You know, by the way, this deployment is not necessarily because of the livestock that have been driven. By the way, there were no livestock that were driven away. There was an attempted theft. Okay? I think it got to that point where government said enough is enough when the officers were killed, those police vehicles were banned, and that was not the first one. It started last year in November, when they these bandits killed the 8 GSU officers in Napeito, in Turkana East,
and the woman leader.
and that peace ambassador, the late Mary. So it is an accumulation of the deaths and how cruel they are. Okay, that government seems, in my mind, in my thinking, it's not just about the cattle, because at this point in time there were no cattle that were really being driven away. It was that
it's about this emerging force that's like trying to stand up.
These people are
to
standing up against the government, actually. But will they be known? This is my worry. Will they be brought out? If they are known, then those are the people that the operation should deal with.
Focus.
And if they get rid of not all of them, if they get rid of some of those guys, I think a lesson will be taken.
Cut off
By the way, SLDF, what happened with SLDF? Do we hear about them?
When Matakwai was paraded, and the body of Matakwai was paraded, how was it?
That's it.
That sent a message.
Yeah.
Dominic.
My question, Mheshimiwa, is assuming that animals are what is causing all this, would chipping of these animals solve the problem?
That is the technology I was talking about.
Yes, in that technology.
And why not? Just to
So you can
differentiate
track
my cow from your cow, this cow in this county from that
the
cow
other,
from the other county.
Would that?
Why not? Why not? It should be done if it is going to stop the theft.
It won't be
Okay,
done.
but I think I get what Mugai
Mugai said,
is actually emphasizing, that the way we've been dealing with the North, the way Kenya government has been dealing with the Northern Kenya as part of this country, hasn't given the Northern people the confidence to believe that government is there for their good.
Yeah.
And that needs to be dealt with.
Indeed.
Yeah?
But won't we see all of these actions and then the subsequent action until and unless it ceases to be commercial benefit to certain individuals, we will not see any of these things that you're talking about come into place. We won't. Until it ceases to be an interest, until the head is actually cut off, until that action happens whereby folks can see, okay, hold on a minute, these guys are serious. And that will only take place when the shillings stop dropping. And that's it. Secondly, we talk about security forces, which we know. Look, I have never had a doubt. Security forces, well trained. I mean, for crying out loud, look at where they are in different parts of the region. Somalia, look at where they have been. Look at where they are right now in DR Congo. What are we talking about? People who are not worth their metal? They know exactly what they're doing. Some of the best in the region, all right? Then we want to come and say, actually, you know what? They're not able to handle a matter in northern Kenya. I'm sorry, but tell us something else. But then you have to ask, who is pulling the puppet strings?
You know,
Until we're ready to deal with that, then we can be having a conversation about the rain.
until the cows come to
Indeed, we can be talking about anything.
The issue here, though, Mheshimiwa, and this is where now you as the elected leaders come in and you're on the spot. This matter is going to come to Parliament.
Yeah.
It'll be discussed at some point. You will see members of Parliament standing up and talking so emotionally about the insecurity in the area, and yes, this government is committed. Those that will be speaking for government will be saying the government is committed. Others will be saying the government should commit further. But will the right questions really come out of Parliament? Question number one for me, and I'm very insistent on this, is the demonstration by the executive that Parliament can be a by the way is already a big one. And this is where Parliament needs to start by stamping its authority and saying, we are not a by the way. You cannot go and decide and gazette and then come to us and say, oh, by the way, there's that small matter that we've already announced. Can you quickly just approve so that it's an emergency?
Never,
it's an
ever
emergency.
stamp any authority. Never. This one, ever.
Secondly, there should be proper demand for a proper plan. So what is the plan? So after these 30 days, what is the plan? What are you going in to do? So we are deploying the military to go and do this and the other. What are you going to do? What are the issues that really affect this region? How about the Equalization Fund and actually making sure that the Equalization Fund is out? Money can go and start developing those things. This road from Lokichar to Kapedo, how soon can we start seeing this road being made? How soon can we start seeing more schools and hospitals? How soon? What's the, let's just use that word, the Marshall Plan for the North? If we don't have those questions coming out of Parliament at this time when you have actually the opportunity, you'll have dropped the ball.
I do not want to jump the gun or anticipate that debate. I want that motion to come. And I believe those of us from the North Rift or the northern part of Kenya are a large group. By the way, we have the Pastoralist Parliamentary Group. It's a caucus of the Kenya Parliament with a membership of 102. members, senators and MPs. That is a huge team.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this huge team are the ones that are fighting in between, amongst
There's
amongst
infighting.
themselves. They are the ones that are stealing from each other, in terms of the people, of course. And maybe government needs to give us a hearing this time round. Government needs to listen to us as the people.
But how does the government listen to you, Mheshimiwa? Sorry for interrupting you. When you are actually confessing here to us that among us, the one or two, you are still fighting.
If there's no cohesion.
It's not as it were. There is a lot of progress, by the way, that has been made in terms of bringing the people together. We just held our elections last 2 weeks ago. The parliamentary group
For this caucus.
for the caucus, and I happen to have been elected the chair. Each of the 15 counties that form the PPG gave a member into the executive. So there are 15 members of the executive of the PPG. That is the one I am referring to as being the vice chair too. And we are communicating, we are talking. Previously, even the MPs themselves
You're talking
would
and
not.
people are dying.
It is progress, Muga. It's not what it was.
It is very slow progress.
And the point I want to make here is that when that debate will come, I am sure the members of the PPG will speak as
Bona Chairman.
one voice
Bona Chairman.
on this one.
Have you convened this caucus to sit and discuss what your position will be in the House?
Actually, we are meant to caucus today.
Okay.
We're meant to meet today.
Has there been a conversation that will lead into, as you're chairing this PPG today, has there been a conversation on, so this is the position that we ought to take in terms of this is what we should be demanding or this we should be asking for? Are irreducible minimums for us to vote yes for the KDF to go? Because with 100 and plus votes, if you say no, that's a significant number.
That is the matter that we will discuss. We are alive to what is happening. We represent the people of these counties, okay? And we live this situation. And so we will make our voice heard. We will make our voice count in the debate and even to the government. Because I know the president has been, by the way, he's been favorable to the team. He's the one who opened the induction workshop of this caucus. And so this is the goodwill that we've been yearning for. So we believe we can get commitment from the government. And that commitment will involve the leadership of the northern region of this country.
You're the most
being
experienced
involved.
parliamentarian among them.
Well, I'm not the only one. We are several of us. There is Mheshimiwa Samuel Moroto of Kapenguria.
Moroto
He's doing his fifth term.
Yes, Moroto has been there, yes.
And our patron, Mheshimiwa Raso from Saku in Marsabit. We're doing, he's also doing his third term. Major Bashir is the chairman of the PPG. He's doing his second term. So I think we will want to be counted for our people.
Let's take a break.
Yeah.
After the break, we want to hear from you. We want to open the phone lines. Speak to the Honorable Daniel Nanok, Turkana West MP, and also to our other guest, Dominic Wabala, who is a journalist and a security expert. He's been a crime reporter for many years and a security reporter for many years. He has covered many of these conflicts within the country and some outside.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Maina in Nyeri, yes, you were calling earlier. You can call now. We'll be able to pick your call. We're asking, what will it take to end insecurity in northern Kenya? What will it take to end insecurity in northern Kenya? Jonathan Nyinya on Twitter says, the KDF and the police have got no difference apart from the machines that they carry. This approach is more crude. I think the supply of recruits into the banditry should be cut off by including civilization, economic and infrastructure development in these areas. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, just beyond sending in the guns and the vehicles and the ammunition and then coming out and leaving people, some of them maimed others parading them in police stations and then taking them to court. Beyond that, what is it that we do with this?
Eric, look at northern Kenya, just northern, not North Rift. That region had similar problems to the ones we're talking about in the North Rift. Coming from Mombasa, going to Garsen, man, it was at your own peril, at your own risk. A lot of those problems have ended. What we have now are these terror attacks, okay? But look at the community that predominantly comes from that region. Many of them got into business. Commercial business.
Yep.
Now, the very traits and thinking that they had before, because they're also pastoralists, they are now engaged in business. And just look at how that community has risen and how they become prominent in business. That focus. So if you're talking about people being able to change, they can. The Pokomo and the Wardei, who are their neighbors, the Wardei being a community from the Kenyan Somali community, were always in conflict. Once in a while something flares up. But the frequency with which it flared up, that one ceased. So how did it happen?
Mugam, if I may ask,
Yes.
do we then think that or believe that resources have a role to play?
Huge.
And wait a minute, and that the leadership of North Rift has not helped them as those in the north have been helped. Because look, we have had devolution.
Yep.
Devolution was supposed to bring leadership and resources
Yep.
closer to the people,
Bring it
Yep.
to the local
Localize
level.
it.
local level. Yeah, we have had these cases of these reports of resources meant for the counties ending up in Nairobi and the other cities building apartments and the likes of it. Is it so different what the North has done than what the North Rift has done, the leadership?
It's a community. Look at the way the community functions. People talk about the democratic style of that region, where leaders are chosen communally. They decide, this is the person who's going to lead us. They decide. So that public participation, they were way ahead of the 2010 constitution. Now, some may say that's not democracy really, but people participate and agree that this is the person we want. And they have a hierarchy, you have elders. Now, because they're able to coalesce together as units within their communities or within their clans, they're able to do a great deal. You can see the ascendance. If you've been alive long enough, you can see the point from which the Kenyan Somali community were pastoralists like others and how they have moved, and now they're a commercial and almost an industrial force in the country, as we see. It is not something that you need. Don't study a book. It's happening before your very eyes on a daily basis.
So, City,
Yes.
was it resource mobilization, resource allocation into these counties? Was it that the leadership of these counties has used the platforms that they have better in terms of representation, in terms of resource management?
The resources that came into the county system simply assisted what was already in existence, because the communities seem to have understood how to work as units and to work well. And in such places, it is very easy to come to a consensus and to bring certain things to a halt or to move them forward. Because once the leaders who are accepted by that community have assented to it, then the forward movement is not difficult. Yes.
Which you're actually saying it is lacking in the Rift.
Oh, it's absent. It's not lacking. It's completely absent. It's not there.
Mheshimiwa Nanok.
Let me chip in there.
Yes.
And that is a good discussion to pursue. The question of resources. The question that you raised about having a Marshall plan for these regions. And yes, devolution has been with us for the last, how many?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years,
Yep.
yeah.
And some of these counties that are affected by this conflict have gone ahead of the others. Yeah? I think simply because of the way they apply the resources that they have been getting as counties. There is the question of devolution and whether it has made us better than we were. There is a lot of pilferage, I think, in our counties. To the extent, some of the question I'm asked is, you get 12 billion shillings per year in your county. Money that, by the way, we never used to get. If we were getting any money, maybe the salaries and whatever for government staff that used to work in the former Turkana district, hardly 2 billion in a year. Now you're getting 12 billion, or 10 billion for that matter. So 5 times what you are getting. Can we see that on the ground? And there are questions on that. Yeah. In terms of the question of stopping the recruits into banditry, it's about empowerment, economic empowerment. I like the question that Dominic brought. Is it Dominic that brought out the traders, the business community? No, it was Morgan. Yeah, these guys used to raid each other. They used to steal from one another. Now they no longer do it. They have decided to take on the business angle to it, and it is better. It is more peaceful, and they can continue with their life. These are some of the things that are missing, I think, in some of these conflict-prone counties, West Pokot, Turkana, Samburu, even Tiati for that matter. How many of them are involved in business-related activities so that they do not find themselves in this banditry economy that we are having in the North Rift. So yes, government.
So the only employer is this criminal activity.
Kind of. You know, and look at even the situation now. We are living in a drought. Okay.
Yeah.
Lack of water, lack of pasture, and therefore there is no lack of food. We are actually asking for food relief in order to survive. If that is what obtains, surely, then life is really tough for the people in the North Rift. If government can come in this manner, the funds that we receive, there should be robust ways of accountability. And you know, that is an executive function now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The investigative function. These are executive functions. To look at how this money is being spent, whether the intended purpose was, objective was achieved, is an nitty-gritty.
There's also a parliamentary function.
The parliamentary function, you know, we oversight.
Yep.
Okay, we oversight. But you know, with devolution now, oversighting of a county government is bestowed on the county assembly. And you look at what happens there, and you know, I can't stand for some of the things that they may decide to do, but they are doing their role. You see, I am here to oversight national government functions and MDS. That aspect needs to be improved in these counties. The question that Dominic raised of, you know, instead of this money developing the northern Kenya, it's coming back to build apartments in Nairobi, in Eldoret, and wherever. If a layman can notice that, why wouldn't the investigative arms of government notice that?
And trace it.
And hold someone to account. Where are we not seeing accountability on the part of those who are responsible for those resources? So there is that there is something missing in that.
There's a missing
on the
link.
question of resources. Equalization fund. It's so unfortunate that even after Kenyans,
You have 7 years to go.
I know, and and nothing has happened.
Yep.
Kenyans, in their wisdom, felt that they needed to carry all Kenyans with them together.
Yes.
Okay. So create this fund and apply it to those areas that were left behind. Latif and Tim, what has happened in this parliament is terrible. Everybody now wants to have a pie of that fund, including Nairobi.
Equalization has now been devolved
Equalization
towards
is being redistributed to everybody.
Somebody wants to be more equal there.
Pockets of areas of poverty. Areas of poverty. Yeah? That fund has done nothing.
Nonetheless, even if the Equalization Fund was actually operationalized today and say, let's base the unit for equalization as the ward, you'll still find that your areas have more wards. Each ward in your constituency.
Not wards, but maybe... I mean, there are more wards in some of these...
but each ward in your constituency qualifies for Equalization Fund. And there's some constituencies where maybe just 1 or 2 wards would qualify. So all your wards in the former Turkana district would the former
the whole
Baringo
county
district.
qualifies.
Yes, exactly.
The entire county qualifies for the Equalization Fund.
Yes.
Push for it to be implemented and operationalized and brought to the ground. You have more money to add on to the 10 billion, right? And this talks about then what happens. I think the question is there a push and a proper agenda that the government has to uplift these areas? Is there a push? When you talk about infrastructure and lacking infrastructure, is there such a push?
That is,
when you talk about agriculture, whether it's crop development or livestock production, is there a proper plan? This is livestock production. This is what we shall do for pasture. This is what we shall do for market. This is how we shall do to get the product to market.
These are some of the questions that I think when the PPG will meet His Excellency and his government, we will put to him that this was the route given to us by the rest of the country, that we will come up, leverage ourselves on this equalization to be at some acceptable level with the rest of the country. Can it be? Can we get the goodwill now? Can we get the government to push for this? You know, there's been this tug of war between who implements equalization. Is it the national government? Is it the county governments? The functions, I don't know, and all this. You know, politics of power games, I would say, have come to play in delaying the implementation of this fund. But good enough, the National Assembly or Parliament has been allocating Equalization Fund their portion of the money. So the money is there, and we only need now to do the appropriation and spend on the projects that are going to make a change. If those changes come into play, Latif and team, I believe this banditry thing will be given, will take a different angle. By the way, it is not as it was. A lot has changed. What to me has happened, the metamorphosis that has happened with this banditry is the terror aspect that has been brought in, you know? And this terror aspect is not for livestock stealing.
It's for human beings.
It is for land. It is displacement. It is to create fear so that people don't live in these areas. And then you can have what you want. Yeah, it is actually terrorism that is coming up in the northern now. But it's creating. You can imagine the burning of schools. What animals are in the schools?
Yeah,
the burning of houses and homes. A whole village is set on fire. Yeah, why would you want to do that? And there are no animals that you are stealing even after doing that. So that is basically displacement of populations.
Dominic.
But Mheshimiwa, we know that we have cut down boundaries, that we know that West Pokot is this size, and these are the boundaries. It extends to this place. We know Turkana North, Turkana South, we know their boundaries. So regardless of how many times you ban schools and you kill people, you won't change those boundaries until the independent boundaries and Electoral and Boundaries Commission does that. So how does that come to play in the displacement?
You know, Dominic, I've told you the question of boundaries is in this current flare-ups. Our brothers occupy a hilly, mountainous area. The Turkana County, for that matter, is a plain area, and so capable of having more fodder, okay, at least for that, fodder, grass. And then settlement also, in terms of people settling. So when you ban, you're basically chasing away the inhabitants, yeah? And creating an open place where you, if you want, you can move in and you can settle in. And then with the aid of these firearms, you can defend. Yeah?
Yeah.
This is basically what is happening in Turkana East, in Turkana South. Okay? Unless there is a counter force that will not allow you, after you have done that, you defend, unless you have a counter force that can flush you away. And maybe this is where the KDF and the police operation that is now on will be of help. In terms of telling, I mean, these aggressors, I would say, no, you cannot use force to settle. By the way, we can live peacefully. We can graze together. We can water our animals together on a dialogue, on understanding that my place is having no grass.
Yep.
We are short of water. Your place has plenty of grass. Why don't we graze
share?
together? That has happened, and it can happen again and again. Because even the Turkanas move. My people are in Uganda as I speak. Why are they there? Because they are looking for water and pasture. Not to go and raid. Not to go and increase their herds by stealing. And that engagement is done, and we are allowed to move. Why can't the West Pokot residents and the Turkana residents be able to speak and share the resources without the use of the gun? Without the use of the gun. Development is a big one.
It's a key. There are some comments on social media, and
So
Kipkorir Bore says,
Right.
what Governor Natembeya said is true. Banditry is a huge business controlled by the bigwigs in the political system. I feel that most MPs from the affected areas have the ability to end the menace, not even the KDF, since they do well know what's happening. They rush to State House for cameras, and at night they fund the said bandits. Tragic and ridiculous.
Bet says one thing is clear: banditry is a huge business enterprise run by powerful individuals in government. He says, everybody. Oh, he said, "Wow, all presidents have always been masked from seeing through the scheme. That's if one was not an accomplice. After the elections, the financiers who used to get in and out of courts changed political allegiance." Okay, so basically, the belief is that there's an enterprise going on here. And that is what needs to be cut out. And it just seems that there are layers. But again, it seems that you can cut right through to the issue. And the question is, how ready are certain quarters ready to do certain things? Number one, speak about what you know to be the truth. Number two, act on what you know you have been given the mandate and power to do. And then, number three, close the taps. How willing are the different entities ready to do those different things?
You know, there's a psychological term called conditioning. When banditry or any criminal enterprise or theft or anything that actually breaks the law is regularized and it's actually made to be, it's normalized. What you then do, the mind finds it acceptable. So you hear people are dead. Oh, okay, how many? 3. Oh, it's a serious issue, but it's been normalized.
True.
Now, no one really kicks a big fuss when you hear. I was looking at the papers today. Police vehicle, IED, sorry. Pew.
Wow.
People died, sorry. I'm thinking, oh, again.
Imagine.
That is the real tragedy. Now, what then happens to children who are born in war-torn areas? Because this is a war-torn area. What is their conditioning?
Yeah.
And what are these people going to be? And the people we're talking about, these aren't people who are my age, or no one's age yet. These are very young people.
Yeah.
Teenagers in
Yes.
some cases.
Yeah.
So,
They are.
Yeah.
and what do you think of those who look up to them?
And so, if you look at the trend of these these crimes, those who are on the receiving end, I mean, I don't know, Dominic should have studied and brought out some of these things. If you look at those who are on the receiving end of this banditry, many of them have actually moved away from their original lifestyles. They are going to school. Well, most of their kids are going to school. And so the recruits are fewer into that banditry economy. Many of them are becoming farmers. Along River Turkwell, there are irrigation schemes. And people are busy trying to make a living by farming. I think that may not be said of our colleagues who are aggressing. They seem to have a continuous flow of recruits into this business, into this banditry thing. They are not attending school.
Precisely.
Yeah?
There's a direct correlation with the levels of
And so-
literacy
Yes,
and banditry.
yes. And so government needs to come in there so as to help deal with these ones who are not attending school, who are being recruited into this banditry economy because that is the only lifestyle, even as they defend these ones who have shifted their lifestyle now to education, to farming, and they are ready to abide. Whether that is the case, currently, no, it is not. Yeah? And the level of killings, by the way, can be very traumatizing. These people who are burnt in Nadome, the women and the children who are burnt in their houses, what does that leave you with? You know? So Muga, when you talk of conditioning, you are a bitter child. You grow to become a bitter adult. And so you refer to your fellow Kenyan as an enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah? And that's what the Turkanas, by the way, do.
Vendetta.
Yep.
Yep.
And,
We'll
and
get
yeah,
back.
and you live with it. And you live with it. So really, this operation, as I see it, should not even be given time frame. Disarmament should be a continuous exercise. This thing should continue.
Should continue, but a lot more. like
Again,
you've said.
it should be driven by intelligence.
Bas.
Okay? We must just isolate these criminals.
Bas.
The
Mashallah.
moment we will isolate the criminals, they will tell you that big guy. Because when they raid the cows, they must be selling it.
They know
to
who
somebody.
they know who
So
they
who
report
is that
to.
who is buying?
Let's wait and see
Where is it?
what your caucus does
Yeah.
and what your caucus brings to the house to the floor of the house. Thank you very much, Daniel Nanok, MP Turkana West, for joining us. I know you're rushing to Parliament. All the best. Go and address that issue. Dominic Wabala is a journalist. He has covered matters of security for many years. He is now a security expert.